Microsoft Excel, and in Microsoft Excel, I want to find the displacement in the X direction. So I'm just going to call this X displacement, or displacement, I think displacement in X is pretty descriptive. And then let's do like that. And let's do the same thing for the Y. All right. So the first thing that we want to find is our displacement in the X direction. We're just going to set this cell equal to our final position minus our initial position. And before we go any further, I want to make sure that each one of these is initial, final, initial, final, initial, final. Don't mean to change anything. Initial, final, initial, final, initial, final, initial, final, initial. Wait a minute. Initial, let me do this. Initial, final, 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 initial, final. So now that we've verified that we have an initial and a final, we can proceed, okay? You typically want to do that before you actually do a calculation. So now we want to merge these two cells. We're going to merge these two cells by selecting on this icon. And you'll notice that the two cells now become one. I'm just going to go ahead and middle this. It's already centered. And this is our displacement. We have an initial position of 0, and then we have a final position, which is 0.393231. We want to replicate this all the way down. Something that is as well helpful is that you guys turn on your autosave. You'll see autosave here, so it'll just be saving throughout your work, okay? So enough of that. So now that we have our displacement in the X direction, our Y is in the next column. Well, it's in the column right next to X. So we can just fill and then drag to the right, and it's going to calculate everything for us properly. You don't necessarily have to do the 0 and then the final, the initial, the final, initial, because if it works for the X, it works for the Y. So I'm just going to go ahead and fill and drag this down. Okay. So now what we want to find is the average of these two displacements.